the task now is to translate that policy intent into sustained export growth, which will require stronger institutional coordination, improved access to finance, and effective implementation at the cluster level. We are very fortunate to have with us today an outstanding set of voices representing every link in the value chain. So welcome everyone. Thank you for sparing us your valuable time for this important event. Let me say that I think this conversation matters immensely because business as usual will not take India where it needs to go. The government has set an ambitious target of 100 billion for textile and apparel exports by 2030. That means an expansion of textile exports of more than 5 in less than 5 years. So clearly this will require root and branch policy adjustments that go well beyond just the tariff advantages gained by recent FTAs. And I look forward to an illuminating discussion of these very important issues today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iyer, for your insightful remarks. May I now request Professor Ashok Gulati to set the context of today's discussion.
Thank you, Salakshana. Distinguished speakers on the dais. And I must commend your patience and the choice between food for thought here and the food for stomach outside. So you have chosen what runs the country, the ideas game. Today's discussion, the panel, is all about, if you understand Hindi, sui dhaga, the needle and the thread. The book that we are going to release traces back to more than 5,000 years roughly. It has woven a civilization of India. And there was a time, if you look at Madison's work, India had 25% of the global GDP. And that was the time Indian, after the food security, it's roti and kapda. So it flourishes with all the apparels. And then came the times, during Mughal time, India had such a flourishing industry that Europeans had to come here and invest, and even the Romans tried to take the muslin of Dhaka, which is known as. It's an enormously interesting story of how the civilization walked. But as Dr. Shekhar said, there is some disruption at a point of time. That disruptive technology, Hargreaves spinning Jenny, and that changed the entire course of history. Instead of providing the best apparels to the world, we became suppliers of raw material to UK, and then the manufacturing revolution started off there. In fact, if you go in history, even the slave trade, US had all the land for cotton, the labor was in Africa, and the manufacturing was in UK, and we were both the suppliers of raw material as well as the market for the finished products. We have traced all that, and we looked at that when the innovation comes, a disruptive innovation, then it can change the course of history and the nation. What has happened in the last 25 years? As Salakshana said, our share in the global trade is stuck at 3%. China went from 17% to 35% between 2000 and 2015, and now they are coming down, and those who captured the markets were Bangladesh, just next door, literally from 2% to almost 9-10%. Vietnam, which had just 1.5, 1.6%, has gone to 6.7% or so. So you have a situation where much smaller nations have captured a bigger share of the global market, and we have remained stuck at 3%. What could be the reason for that? And what do we learn out of what is happening over the last 25 years in the global market? There is something called in the cotton industry the flying geese phenomenon. As the labor becomes costlier in one place, these flying geese move on to the next one. And that's what exactly has happened. It was Japan, earlier it was Europe and Japan and then Korea and then China, and now China is becoming expensive and moved on to Bangladesh and Vietnam. But why India is not able to capture that? So this book is all about what needs to be done to go from 3% to 6% to 9% to 10%, and if we can get like China. But it requires a systematic effort, perseverance, perfection, pursuit for perfection, and timely delivery. This book is all about farm to foreign. So we start with the farmer because cotton is our strength, but also that becomes a weakness because we produce roughly 70% cotton-based industry, whereas global market is 70% man-made fibers. So there is a bit of mismatch, although we love cotton. But then the external markets, there is a challenge. Cotton productivity, I will come down to you. Our productivity of cotton in the fields is about 435, 440 kilograms per hectare. China, Brazil, Australia are 2000 plus. US is about 900 to 1000 in between. So what is it that is lacking to increase our productivity, doubling, tripling, 4 times up? That will give you competitiveness. But then you come to the man-made fiber, the yarn story and the fabric story, and then how fashion has to be woven into the game to capture the global markets. So we have looked at not just India, we have looked at Bangladesh, we have looked at Vietnam, and we have looked at China. So this book, the team has spent about 2 years studying this, interacting with several of the players, the big players, many of them are sitting right here. Grateful to them. And the book should be released. I will only clear the session after that. This was something about the book. I think, why don't you come and request? We'll first release the book and then start the panel discussion. Just 2 minutes.
Thank you, Professor Gulati, for setting the context. Now we move on to the special moment of the day. It's the hard work of our team for 2 years. We request all the dignitaries on the dais to kindly release our book on stitching India's apparel export strategy from farm to foreign. So this book looks into the textile and apparel sector, especially the apparel sector, and we try to answer, first, what are the challenges in every part of the 5F value chain from farm to foreign, and then we also look into our competitors in apparel, which is China, Bangladesh, Vietnam. What is their modus operandi? What is their policy framework? And how have they grown from these years? And we do that in terms of 5 pillars of competitiveness. One is the scale and capacity, the ecosystem part of it. Then we also look into the cost of capital part. Third is the labor and skilling and technology part. Fourth is the institutional mechanisms, like in China they have the clusters and industrial parks in Vietnam. And lastly, the market access and trade facilitation aspects, including the logistics. And basis these, we compare these countries vis-a-vis India. And in the conclusion, we also give a short-term, medium-term and long-term reform agenda to India to set its apparel export strategy right, and also to achieve the 100 billion TND export targets by 2030. The QR code, this is an open access book. The QR code is given in the backside of the brochures which are on your table. You can scan it, and you can read the book of this comparison between China, Bangladesh, Vietnam and India, and also the cotton story, the yarn story, the factory story. All that has been documented by our team, and we look forward you to reading that, and also to get your comments and suggestions on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sulakshana. Now we start the panel discussion around these topics that I talked about. And let me start with Mr. William Bettendorf. I just flagged the issue from the farm to foreign, that's the value chain. India has a value chain, but what is happening on the farm? Today our farms are, cotton farms particularly, very interesting that we started off something, a disruptive technology in farming, the BT cotton, which was introduced in 2002. Our production at that time was 13 million bales. Within 10-11 years we went to 13 to 39 million bales, 3 times. And India became the largest producer of cotton in the world, surpassing China, and second largest exporter of cotton. Our productivity also went up from about 300 something to 550 or so. But thereafter there were certain issues in the policy arena. And our production, which was 39 million bales in 2013-14, has come down to 29 million bales today, come down. And we have become a net importer of cotton. Since you work with the International Cotton Council, what's your experience around the world and in US? What is the lesson India needs to learn out of that, at least on the farm, to turn around the tables?
Can you hear me? Yeah. The farms in India are family-run farms, typically maybe 2 hectares each, something like that. But you contrast that in the States or Australia, Brazil, those are huge farms, composed of hundreds, if not thousands, of acres or hectares. So the economies of scale is something that may influence this. Also the seeds. We know that in India there are lots of different varieties of seeds, and the farmers will, there's no set, as far as I know, control over what types of seeds a farmer would plant. So you have a mix of varieties which could lead to a mix of different qualities, which is a challenge for mills to process at times. So that might be one thing, is if the farms somehow could be consolidated in some way in order to achieve greater economies of scale, and then have consistent seed varieties so that you have consistent quality. That might be something to consider. But it's not easy, because how can you have all these different family farms? You can't just do like some countries and wipe the slate clean and relocate those people. That's happened in other countries, but India, that won't happen, I don't believe.
This is one thing that we always learned as a student. Unless the scale is large, the cost will not come down, scale economies. But look at the experience of China. China's holding size is smaller than ours. We have very small farms. Average holding size is 1 hectare, 1.08 to be exact. And we have become the largest producer of rice in the world, surpassing China. We are the largest exporter of 40% of the global export of rice is by India. Same thing in milk. Average herd size is only 4, and we are the largest producer way beyond US. We are at 248 million tons, US is at about 102, 103 million tons. So the smallholder magic, because seed is perfectly divisible, if they have access to the high technology seeds, water is divisible, fertilizer is divisible, it's only a matter of access. If we have that access, if we have that incentive structure in place, China, smaller holding size than ours, but productivity is 2,000 kilograms.
But they have shifted their cotton growing areas up into Xinjiang. And those are huge corporate farms. So the scale is different in China now.
So the question is, can we liberalize our land markets? That's not going to happen so easily in this country. So will we be stuck with low productivity and become maybe the second largest importer of cotton in the next 5 years, 10 years? Okay, let me move on to the next one, our largest exporter, Mr. Purana. Is it Srinivasan or Srinivasan? Both are same. Okay, good. You are our hope. Those who are, they are the largest exporter of apparels from the country, Shahi Exports. But the story is much more interesting. The founder of Shahi Exports, Madam Sarla, right? She started off with just 10-15 people and perhaps 5,000 rupees at that time. And today, you tell us the story, how did you succeed from very little capital, almost nothing, and as a hobby, and today they are engaging more than 100,000 people, right? Tell us the secret, why 100 more Shahis could not be created in this country, or at least 10 more.
Hello. Sure, precisely it's over 50 years, Shahi Exports, so the journey has...
Is that on? Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, better.
So it's a long journey, hard work, consistency over decades. Why 10 more Shahis? See, India has got a strong fundamentals. We have got all the ingredients in India. We have a textile base, historical textile base, strong entrepreneurship, and abundance of workforce. And of course, the easy access to the market through the treaties. But the real question is why these advantages has not translated to the larger number of companies achieving this global scale. To our view, the answer lies in strengthening the ecosystem which enable the companies to grow consistently over decades, because this cannot be built overnight. It needs a consistency, decades of hard work, rather than in any one company's capabilities. So Shahi's growth is something like it's a consistency and constantly working on our core fundamental values and the basics.
Thank you. It's the basics, and then we can capture the global market while sitting in India, right? So your all investments are in India, correct, basically. Let me come to the other model, and that's Pallabji from Pearl Global. Very fascinating story. They are literally the second or third, neck to neck, second largest exporter. And interesting thing is they have not invested just in India. They have diversified in a manner, if I am not mistaken, correct me please. Bangladesh you have invested, Vietnam you have invested, Indonesia you have invested,
Guatemala.
And Guatemala. So they have diversified risks so that if India becomes a target for tariff negotiations, maybe they can export still from Bangladesh or Guatemala or Indonesia.
Well, it didn't start that way.
We never faced that type of tariff. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, the founder Deepak Seth, he wanted to play the role of the seller. And that means like where he was selling to, the buyer. So he had that interest, and I think he started back in 90s to open up offices in UK, Canada, US, and do that middleman's job as well as the retail side. So I think that started giving him that insight that India doesn't make all the product. Whereas in the Western wardrobe, there are many, many things which is needed. These stores buy a lot of product. And that made him go into countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh at that point of time. Later on, we started opening up our own factories there. And yes, like as pandemic hit, that's the time, like I think for the first time, we realized that there's a huge advantage. When one country was shutting down for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, the other country was producing. So that's the first time that we realized that we could supply the goods all through that challenging time. And then of course, after that was a tariff. So yes, what we went for is the variety of product, the strength of each location. And as you said, like, if you look at the whole world map, the countries there like who are much stronger than India in terms of apparel production. So what is it that they are doing which we don't do as yet? So that I think that knowledge, that hunger was more important at that point of time.
Is that knowledge coming to India now?
Yes, we are trying, definitely.
There's one more question I need to ask you. Those who are not aware, as I said, the flying geese phenomenon where the labor becomes costly, they move to the next station. Within India being such a large country, earlier investments were in the south. And south labor is becoming somewhat expensive because labor has to move all the way from Bihar, Odisha, Jharkhand, and that leads to a lot of attrition, high attrition rates, because whenever the festivals come and all that, there is exodus. So this is perhaps the first venture, Pearl Global, which has gone to, with capital, gone to where the labor is. All the country is being fed by labor from Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha and eastern UP perhaps. They have opened a factory now in Muzaffarpur in Bihar. And that would be a win-win situation because good for the people of Bihar rather than going all the way to Tirupur. I'll come down to that. But I see it flying geese within the country. Cost advantage is there, and if Bihar government or Odisha government or Jharkhand government can put some incentives, I think eastern belt, which has been neglected in India's growth story, I think you can Bihar be the next Bangladesh of India?
I think that's the discussion that we had when I first met you. Like I personally felt that, if you look at the demographics, if you look at the size of the state compared to Bangladesh and the kind of population, I think all of them are much similar.
Yeah.
It's just that the policy and the interest in this industry is something like if Indian government and especially the Bihar government can look into, it's possible. And it's not about, I would say, capital investments. A lot of states are talking about at this point of time is how much capital investment that you're doing in our state and you get some kind of subsidy. I think it should be done with more about employment, because Bihar is one state. I think we found out everywhere in India that people from Bihar were going and working at a particular scale at the lower end of the society. And that has now, not only in Bihar, I think we have got more people from Bengal at this point of time doing the same thing. We had experienced a lot of people from Odisha doing the same thing, Eastern UP as you mentioned. So yeah, this is the belt I think where a lot of people has come in this industry as operators and various other functionaries. That I think we need to tap. And so yes, our endeavor to Bihar, going into Bihar and doing this is that. Of course, the other thing that we spoke about is the first time in factory working. So that's the training, that's the culture that we need to establish in all these places.
Any government that comes in India, the growth story of 7%, 8% growth of GDP is there, but then critics say it's jobless growth. Who is growing? We are not creating enough jobs. This is one sector where 1 crore of investment can bring 153 jobs, and that too largely by women. So that women empowerment, job creation is something. I think Shekhar wants to add something on.
Yeah, if I could just take advantage of the fact that this is a panel discussion to just sort of ask a side question. So I was quite fascinated at what you said, which is that if production shuts down in one country, then you can actually make that up with other countries. So I guess as an economist, I'm wondering how homogeneous is the good? So are you producing exactly the same thing in different countries? So if one country shuts down, you can easily ramp up production in the other. And the other is, aren't there costs to, I mean, doesn't it take time to, it seems strange to me that you can ramp up so smoothly. Because if you've got a fixed amount of capital and labor, don't you need to increase your capital and labor in order to dramatically increase production?
Yeah, one thing is that it was an extreme time. Like if you speak about the pandemic time, where the options were too little, and we had a extreme challenge. And there are retailers, like in US at that point of time, market was doing quite well. Even just after pandemic, like if you talk about 2022, when the demand really shot up in the beginning, 21 end and 22 beginning, most of these Western economies, these stores were empty because the goods were not reaching there. China had shut down, other countries had shut down, and that's the time like the need was too high. And we found out some solution, not 100% of it, I would say. Of course, costs was another discussion. It was like, giving vaccination to every people who are coming into the factory, taking care of their health and everything, and then doing the production. So it was a challenging time, and also that's the time that we learned, because you see one other thing, like although like I go into too detail, I guess, is that in our industry, the factories, the production line is very product specific. That's the time we learned that the modular way of production, how quickly switch from knits to and woven. Some of my customers are here in the room. So that's the kind of discussion that we had, is that how do we switch those lines, how do we retrain those workers? So all those things is a big learning that happened at that point of time. But yes, end of the day, we could still service the customer. Like we didn't miss the delivery dates. We could switch wherever the fabric could be switched from one country to the other, we could do all those things.
And that gets reflected in the final figures. Our exports of textile, apparel in particular, did not collapse. Overall, for the economy also, that means people were ready to, find alternative markets or some other places to supply, and that's one of the examples that you have. So overall, 25, 26, exports did not fall on that. Can I come to Mr. Siva Ganpatiji, Managing Director, Gokul Das Exports. You are also neck to neck, I think, with Pearl on export business. Now I'm told from tomorrow we are implementing the UK trade agreement. Is our industry ready to capture this? Why I say this, in the discussion or in the newspapers, EU or UK, we are now going to be doing what China did earlier. But if you look at, we already had FTAs with Japan or Korea, and what did we do? We didn't tap that. So how ready is the industry to take literally a leapfrog in terms of our exports?
I think we have to step back and look at how Bangladesh grew, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they had an LDC status, which gave them a favorable access to Europe.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Once that happened, the country's exports started growing. Mm-hmm. So obviously trade treaties do help because it bestows an unfair advantage or unnatural advantage to the exporting country on account of the tariff differential, which is not hopefully available for somebody else. And that's a substantial amount. That 12% is not an insignificant amount. So it does provide you a competitive edge. So would that result in Indian apparel exports going up to UK? I certainly feel. I mean, logically, as an economist, you would say that, and it should happen. Do we have the capacity and the skill sets to do that? Certainly we do. Right? I mean, we are exporting 16 billion. That's not small, but it's much smaller compared to China and others. And you know, can we compete? Of course,
our target is 45 billion apparel by 2030. 40.
See,
So
40 billion by 2030. We are, you know, that's very low. Very short runway.
Okay.
You know, probably the CAGR, if I recall, you know, will be about 25% or 26%. Bangladesh, where, you know, only grew at 9% CAGR. So what are we expecting, right? So I think we should look at, you know, data appropriately. You know, we probably can look at a CAGR of 7, 8, 9%, and that's a fair expectation. So that would probably push that target to maybe 2036 or 2037 or whatever it is. That may be a more realistic way to look at it.
Okay.
But the reality is that we need multiple trade, multiple FTAs to facilitate this. We really need to have scale players. You know, if you look at who are growing probably in India, more are the scale the ones who have managed to learn to scale the business. Historically, you know, the industry was handicapped by having this industry reserved for small scale sector. Now it's no longer so, but then, you know, the entrepreneurs who managed to migrate to, scalable factories, set up 1,000 machine plus kind of factories, did prosper. So that's what probably will be required for continued growth of this industry. And also look at some new clusters, because, you know, the traditional clusters where this apparel industry flourished, namely Bangalore, Tirupur, NCR, etc., probably will be running short of manpower. As you earlier said, people are migrating from elsewhere in India to these places. We should probably start setting up clusters, you know, as Pearl has done in Bihar or somewhere like that, and you know, tap the abundant labor to explore. But that also has its own set of challenges. I'm happy to get into if there is time.
Very good. You know, we looked at China's story very closely, and the scale that you mentioned is one of the major factors. And to create that scale, the real rate of interest after accounting for inflation was only 3%. In the Indian case, it is 6% plus, the real rate of interest. So that inhibits the scaling up because capital would be needed. Second, and I need your reaction on that particularly, many people are not aware and don't talk in the trade circles as much. IMF has come out in 2026, the latest report, that Chinese currency is 16% undervalued. Goldman and Sachs says 25 to 30% undervaluation. When I was based in Washington, I got a study done by an American professor and a Chinese professor. And they came out at that time, in early 2000s, Chinese currency was 22% undervalued. You remember 8.28 exchange rate was fixed for 6-7 years at least, when their exchange reserves were piling up. If we don't get a tariff advantage, which hopefully we'll get, but US we are not sure whether it will be 12.5% today's news or 10% or we'll get zero, we don't know yet. But if we don't get the tariff advantage, is there any good in letting the rupee slide down to its natural level, at least if not undervalue? Because it's an implicit subsidy to export when China is undervaluing. 20% implicit subsidy, that takes away all the world market because the margins are less than that.
That's a very, that's a strategic call which a country has to take. Obviously, if there is an abundant labor force, underemployed or unemployed, I think it's a crime to, allow them to be underemployed.
Right.
Every day being unemployed or underemployed is a loss to the economy.
That's it.
So if there is a way to monetize that by having a currency as an advantage, which a cheaper currency would certainly, allow that to happen, we are actually helping the growth of the economy.
Right.
Obviously, there will be an offset in terms of, rising cost of imports, etc. But, we have to look at it holistically. And, a lot of India's factor costs, etc., are denominated in rupees.
Rupees.
So barring imports, and it's a very large market, India is, that there is a strong argument to be made to have a cheaper rupee, which will facilitate huge growth.
So you don't
Right.
mind if it goes to 100?
I would welcome it, right? Give me 200.
I would like to bring RBI governor.
That's right.
So let me just come in here. First of all, I'm all in favor of saying that the rupee's value is just another price. So we should let market forces determine it. And the idea that 100 is a bad number has always been somewhat
A
mystified.
psychological barrier.
But that said, I find it difficult to appreciate these arguments about renminbi underappreciation being responsible for China's success. For the following reason. The estimated wage cost in China right now is about 400% of that in India. So even if you give them a 16, 20, 30% currency undervaluation, just in terms of if you subtract the fact that labor is more expensive, it is still the case that they have a competitive disadvantage. So it must be something to do with the structure of their production, with their production function, with the scale at which they're producing, the efficiency or the total factor productivity that they're bringing to it. It can't simply be a matter of renminbi depreciation, because that is more than countervailed by the labor cost advantage of other countries.
I think one of the ways China competes is its dominance over the entire value chain.
Yeah.
So it's not just about apparel, right? I mean, if you look at the fiber, we talked of cotton being extremely productive in China, but even synthetics, they dominate that space. Their cost of fiber is much lower than anywhere else. So hence the yarn is cheaper, the fabric is cheaper, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the whole value chain, apparel does get a benefit in terms of a much cheaper access to its resources. Secondly, even if you look at outbound logistics, ports, etc., China has an added advantage of much faster lead time, much lower cost to exports to the US. Probably they get another 5%, did some math, they get another 4-5% advantage in terms of lower logistics cost itself. Not to mention lead time benefits, which is also huge. So it's the whole ecosystem which competes, not just the labor.
Great. William, would you like to comment on this question? On the undervaluation, because this became in Bush second term, he started pushing the pressure on China that you let the currency appreciate, and they said, okay, we will do it 1% a year. I remember I was used to be there, and it was 8.28 fixed. So
well, I'm not an economist, but in terms of raw cotton, we have experienced something similar with Brazil, because the real has gone down, and it's made Brazilian cotton cheaper to export around the world. So I understand the pain that you're going through.
okay, that brings me to the Tirupur cluster, where everything is more or less one of the best clusters that we can say in India. Not one factory, but a cluster approach, that is the Tirupur, right? And you exported last year 46,000 crores, roughly $5.2 billion worth, and your target for the next 5 years by 2030 is 1 lakh crore, right? If that is the thing, what changes do you see need to be done in your cluster, which has grown organically, literally? It was not planned the way China planned many of these clusters. So what changes are needed?
Yeah, good evening, Ashokji, and thank you, Sulaksna, for inviting us. And Tirupur is a cluster-based model, yes, Sagi said, and VDS, they are our own factories. But Tirupur is 2,000 factories, and around 20,000 small units are joined together and started this export.
Yeah.
Now almost 46,000 crores we completed, and 30,000 crores domestic business also happened there, and we are giving a job of 1 million people, 70% mostly women workers. We are ready for 2030 1 lakh crore. How the next generation joined the business, and for our generation we learned by our own, but next generation they studied abroad and they theoretically they are coming, and how we will improve the efficiency, how the AI technology will be implemented, and how the latest machines they are going to put in the factories, yes, large scale factories, like instead of MSMEs, all the big factories. Even in Tirupur, if you are taking it, SEM, KPR and other big factories are 2,000, 2,500 machines. These are all the things ready. We are ready for 1 lakh crore. And one more thing, and we are ESG norm cluster. We are very unique in that no other cluster is doing that. You know, we are doing around 13 crore liter of water every day. We are recycling it, and 2,000 megawatts solar and wind power is we are producing. Apart from that, 30 million trees we are planting, and 95% growth level we are maintaining it. These are a unique model, and no other cluster is doing, and we are doing as a Tirupur Export Association. We are mingled together and collaborate together, and we joined everything. The business is sharing in between us. So all the modules, one is doing knitting, and one other is doing processing, and one is doing embroidery, all the things. So this is possible in Tirupur in 1 lakh crore.
Good. I hope you will get some extra mileage, especially in EU, because they are very environment conscious. So your green footprint hopefully will give you better access to those markets. But what about the US report that has just come, saying that India uses child labor and therefore we are going to put a higher tariff? Is textile sector, apparel sector safe on that bet?
It will not. Earlier maybe, but 2007 the court was closed our all dyeing factories because of we are spoiling the river, we are spoiling the environment. So immediately we decided we will go over the alternatives. The zero liquid discharge is only possible in Tirupur. Like this, these are all, if you are climbing on one thing, and we will learn from that, and we will solve all the things.
No, that's very commendable. Otherwise this could be especially dyeing process can be very polluting to the rivers and others. I think Tirupur is the first one perhaps to create ZLDs, right? Zero liquid discharge. And everything is recycled back and cleaned up, everything. So that's
95% of water is recycled and reused.
Very good.
Apart from that, the DPP is coming 2030 EU market. Okay. We are ready for the DPP and digital passport product. The traceability, recycle, reuse, everything is all the next generation people are ready for that.
Good. Now let me turn from the apparel sector to textiles. If anybody watches Wimbledon matches, then when for a minute they come back to the referee and swipe their sweats, you should see which towel is that. And that is sent by Mr. Updeepji's well spun. I wish now in FIFA also your towels are entering.
Surely, sir.
So how did you get this? Where are you? By the way, in textiles we are doing better than in apparels. Our market share is about 6%, right? So over to you. You are the king of textiles.
Thank you, Dr. Gulati. One thing I would like to mention before I answer your question is that I was reading a book. I read part of it in last couple of days.
This one?
No, not this one. That was What is Next China? What next China is? And the answer is China. And the reason for that, as Mr. Shiva Ganpati rightly mentioned, it is the complete ecosystem. What we will be listening, we will be talking about China plus one. I realized after reading part of the book, China plus one is still China.
My God.
Because it is the complete ecosystem. What you will be sending out is only the conversion part. That is the last part. That is the garmenting. That can go to Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, anywhere else. But the complete ecosystem from fiber to fabric still remains with China. So that is one of the biggest issue, or what we can say is that is one of the biggest reason that the next China is still China. Number one, to answer the question, and also I think Mr. Shiva mentioned this point, is the complete ecosystem in the value chain. That is one. Now coming to the home textiles, I'm associated with home textiles for many years and also with Welspun. I find there have been three things which are responsible for the growth of home textile industry in India. Number one, of course, as I mentioned in my last panel also, you asked me the same question 3 months ago. So I start with the same. It is the fire in the belly and a real challenge. Honestly speaking, in 91, 92, home textile industry was not that strong in India. And our chairman, Mr. Goenka, went to one of the factories in Europe, and that factory owner did not allow him to visit the plant. And also he said that you Indians, you show something else, make something else and send something else. And that was the day he decided that Welspun and India would be the largest home textile producer in the world. And today we are.
Wonderful.
Number one. Number two, it is the scale with specialization. We scaled up home textile industry,
And
but with
skilled them.
specialization.
And skilled them.
Yes. And with specialization in towel, in bed sheets. So that was another issue. It is not only scale with specialization. And number two, little ahead of time in terms of sustainability. You will be surprised. I was in Welspun in that executive role as president for textiles in the year 2007 and 8 when we executed the first ZLD plant. And at that time, Welspun invested 100 crores. It was exact investment of 102 crores in the year 2007. I remember that figure because I had to give bank guarantee to government of Gujarat because we had a pollution issue.
This was in Bhuj.
That was in Bhuj,
Bhuj.
Anjar. So, investing 102 crores in 2007 was not a small thing for a textile company, which is not the largest, I would say, home textile company in the world at that point in time. And what Mr. Goenka told me was, this 102 crores is not unproductive investment. This is your gateway to the world.
That's right.
So you should showcase this as a technology to enter the world market. And we did that. So at that time we got a very big impetus for US market. So that is number two. Ahead of time in terms of sustainability, traceability. We have our own traceability from the fiber to the end product. And number three, I would say, is the relationship. Home textile industry, in that point of view, is not a converting industry. It is truly a relationship-oriented industry. So we moved out of the middleman and went straight to the retailers. And that gave us a lot of advantage. So these were the main three factors, and the last one being not only capacity, but capability. The capability in terms of anything what we do, that is what is required. And I must say that today, with proud I can say that Welspun today is number one in sustainability in India on S&P Global 500 scale. So this year we got number one position in the world. Our one plant of 70 megawatt power usage is 100% on renewable since 1st of July 2026.
Wonderful.
And we will be meeting all our power standards as RCO set by Government of India by 27 end rather than 29 end, which is set by the Government of India. So all these factors put together made home textile industry in India as an industry which has scaled. World cannot live without it. I mean, I should not be saying it, but as every fourth towel in US is Welspun towel, every third is Indian. Every sixth bed sheet in US is Indian, every eighth is Welspun.
Wonderful.
So these are the factors where the home textile industry made themselves as sort of, a player on the table rather than being a converter. So that is what I say that helped the home textile industry.
Could you give me a flavor of, you talked about scale, how many people are engaged in Anjar plant?
In Anjar plant, in textile division, we have about 19,500 people.
So 19,500 employees at one place.
At one place.
And a place called Anjar in Bhuj district of Gujarat. It's a remarkable story. The whole city is called the Welspun city, right? Something like
And
that.
we are treating the sewage, we are treating 46 MLD or sewage every day of the Anjar city and using that water in our textile division. So in our textile division, we are not even getting one drop of water from outside.
Wow. So this is the real circularity. Great. You talked about the full value chain control of China, and I think we can come to Arvind Limited, Mr. Kulin Lalbhai, Vice Chairman of Arvind Limited. Now you have presence in most of the components of the value chain. If China plus 1, we have to break China plus 1 equal to China. When can we have it China plus 1 also India? What is the vision and what's the possibility of that? China's labor costs are increasing. There is no doubt about that. So sometime the flying geese, will they come in a big way towards India?
Actually, China, I still feel, is playing on a very, very different wicket. We talked about some of the advantages they have on raw material and on, logistics. But I think that country, the way it is now investing in robotics, automation and AI, it is just stunning. We visit China once in 3 months because there's a lot to learn. Because that vertically integrated scale, you will only find in that country. And with labor now 5 times as expensive as India, they're still able to compete, as was mentioned. And you go to some of these factories and the level of automation that they have got, the level of AI sophistication they have got, it is stunning. They are actually working with a dark factory concept, which is
dark factory.
Yes,
all night.
Almost having no human beings in manufacturing, right? Which is a scary prospect for a country like India, where we have to move so many crores of people out of agriculture. Coming to the question you asked, I think we should not over-obsess on how close we are to China. I think geopolitics is going to ensure that the 35% trade that China has, at least from an export perspective, will not remain, because it's a geopolitical risk for any brand in the world. They have to diversify.
It's already 29%.
And it's
now.
Yes, it's already dropping by 1 or 2%. Unfortunately, it has moved more to Vietnam and Bangladesh. I think India has strategic depth, unlike actually Bangladesh and Vietnam. Bangladesh and Vietnam have complete raw material dependency largely on China. India is the only country where 90% value addition of our exports pretty much happen from the country. We have raw materials. We don't have sophisticated man-made. That is the only leg missing in India, because we don't produce the most sophisticated qualities of yarn. The latest polyester nylon yarns, that technology is still not there in India. That's the only part of the value chain in upstream that India is building right now. It will take a few more years to build. But everything else, I think, are spinning, weaving, processing. We have the depth, we have the understanding, we have the software and the hardware. Arvind has successfully used its knowledge over 100 years to build global scale. We make 300 million meters of fabric that goes around the earth 6 times. So we have global scale when it comes to fabric. I think the challenge that has held India back at just 4% of global trade is the fact that we don't have the missing link, which is garmenting. In the case of home textiles, one of the advantages is that the stitching process of home textiles is relatively simple with bed sheets and sheeting. In the case of apparel, each unit takes anywhere between 15 to 22 minutes of stitching with very complicated operations with a lot of manpower. And unless we fix that engine, we will not see a lot of large vertical players emerging. I think India, the problem is we need, 50 companies of the size of a Shahi or an Arvind or a Pearl. I mean, we need many, many more people of scale. And I think for that, it boils down to what was discussed earlier, is that we have to reimagine garmenting. If we continue to do garmenting the way we did earlier, which is small factories opened up in Bangalore and Delhi, subscale with migrant labor, 10% monthly attrition, 10% monthly absenteeism, then we are going to go nowhere. The factory of the future is something which is more automated. It will have half or less of the human manpower, but it will have twice the efficiency. So then you can open many, many more factories of scale. You can still provide the employment, but you cannot have inefficiency in the name of job creation. We have to create these factories where jobs are required. Mm-hmm. Textiles cannot be in urban centers with the rentals and the costs of urban cities. It cannot be in places where auto is competing with you. It has to be in parts of the country which need to absorb this industry, and that is central and eastern India. We have, as an industry, been quite lazy. We have been happy with the cool temperature of Bangalore, creating factories which are all in 20 square kilometers. But I think the heavy lift of going and setting up factories, which everyone is now doing, right? In rural areas, in Madhya Pradesh, in UP, in Orissa, we'll have to do that. We'll have to figure out how to bring in the latest automation. We'll have to figure out how to run factories in 2 shifts. We'll have to figure out how to get the dormitory model right. Because in India, if you have labor that walks to work, every festival, they're not going to come to work. And we have too many festivals in this country, right? So we need manpower that comes and...
We have too many gods. The problem is that.
We have to come, labor has to cohabit, manufacturing. We have to reimagine garmenting. And if we now have enough of the demand signal, the geopolitical alignment, the FTAs, I think now the responsibility is for the industry to step up and reimagine itself.
So I look forward to what you are saying. Could this be the inflection point with the FTAs now coming in? And labor in eastern central India is still much cheaper. And if we change our cozy positions from Bangalore and Tirupur to some of these. But one point that you mentioned, that we are somewhat weak on the MMF, man-made fibers. My colleagues will laugh when I say that I have trousers which are made from recycled plastic bottles. Do we have that type of technology here? Are people doing that type of thing?
The recycled polyester exists in India. There are players doing it. We are all making those products. I think where India is lacking is the performance wear and athleisure segments, which are now some of the largest in the world.
Right.
And the functionalities required for some of those products are pretty advanced. And a lot of the material science is in the yarn.
Right.
And the yarn is dependent on certain raw materials like of very high quality MEG. And then the technology of converting that PTA and MEG into those new age yarns doesn't exist in India today. Wonderful. So I think that is the link, and luckily some global brands are bringing their partners and know-how into India. So I'm hopeful in the next 3-4 years that missing link will also drop into place. But beyond that, I think India has everything.
Great. So Lakshna, we still have 15 minutes, right? With your permission, can I open it to the floor? Any questions from the... You have been listening so attentively. I'm really impressed, because after food, it's difficult to stay awake, and you have been so attentive. So I'm sure you must have some questions. So we can take up 3 questions and then ask. Yes, please. Could you give your introduction and to whom the question is being addressed? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Anybody can answer. My name is Leena and I'm from Manchester, UK. As we all know, tomorrow FTA is happening. And yes, China is the biggest clutch at this moment. I promote Indian textile in UK.
Mm-hmm.
And Manchester is a hub of textile. As we all know, the history started from there and finished there.
Mm-hmm.
When I spoke to few people from the textile industry there, they are very much willing to do the business with India because they know that we have a quality. But yes, compared to our competitor in the world, we are nowhere near to them.
In terms of cost?
In terms of everything, as in mainly the trust, commitment, and time. So as you ask this question, and like I think it's your main subject as well, like China. They are saying, bring yourself where China stands today, and we are happy to do the business with India. Approximately how long it will take to reach to that standard?
Well, that's a very tough call. I don't know whether anybody can answer. On the trust factor, we all trust in God. So, and things are moving. So, anybody who would like to, the trust factor, the timeliness in delivery, and what one of the panelists said, we show something and then deliver something else. So that boils down to... Shall we take 2 more questions? Yeah. I have a question. Yeah. You have a question? Okay. you get all the preference. Yeah. Go ahead. 1 second. I'm coming down.
Hi panelists. So my question is, Vietnam, if you look at, almost 65 to 70% of their T&A export turnover is by the foreign invested firms. So we are sitting here in India. Vietnam is getting investment from Korea, Singapore, all these places. What about India? If we look at our FDI, it has been 4.56 cumulatively. So what is stopping investments in India, and what needs to be done to get foreign investments here?
We are investing outside.
Yeah.
One more. There was one here, and then I come. Yes, please. Udhar dena. Piche.
I'm a garment manufacturer and exporter.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 success stories which we saw here.
Your good name,
one
please?
is the China and India, which has all the 5 elements. And then Vietnam and Bangladesh, which had just 1 F, foreign. They import everything, and they are excellent in exporting those products. So which one you recommend for the short term, if 2030 we have to reach 40 million in apparel export, which is 5 years, 4 years away, which strategy India should follow? Just 1 F, allow all the imports of the raw material, and we export, we scale up, or we still stick to 5F, our old legacy and hangover?
As Shivaji said, that this 2030 target should be put to 2035. Okay, there was one question here, and then the panelists will respond. You can pick up any question. The panelists, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Prasad. I'm from Good Business Lab. Mr. Kulin, you rightly mentioned that a lot of the manufacturing has to be reimagined, and you mentioned about the 10% attrition, absenteeism, and that is what we should tackle as well. What are some of the competitive advantages that you that the practices that you have brought in within your organization that actually has helped become you more competitive? We are already working with Mr. Neerav, the CHRO in your organization as well, to bring in some of the better HRTD practices. And now with the CSDDD regulations and with better HRTD practices, do you think it will be a great competitive advantage for India over here? And we're also working with T as well to bring in better social sustainability practices. What do you think about that? And anyone else can comment about it as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, over to the panelists, please. Anyone? Oh. At the back? Okay, let's pick up that too.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Atyasha, and I'm the country head of a responsible sourcing and human rights consultancy. It's called Impact. My question is to everybody. We've been talking about competitive advantage and the FTAs, etc. With the FTAs come requirements of the Modern Slavery Act, the CSDDD in Europe. How and obviously these legislations are beyond the usual labor compliance. There's a lot more depth in them. How do we think working on those areas could also be a strategic advantage for us, like a competitive advantage for the industry, and how prepared do we feel?
Oh.
There were a lot of questions. I'll try and answer a few and then hand it over.
Others will also come in.
I think this garment model of the future is something we are really trying to work on, and I think it has several legs to it. I think one is the value proposition to labor. Can you solve for a kind of quality of life and compensation that makes people committed to staying with you? And we've kind of tried to imagine a residency sort of model where we take care of very high quality dormitories. We provide education as an add-on solution on top of residency. We are improving the quality of work environment. Many of our newer factories will actually have air conditioning. We are also looking at de-skilling. So the new automation machinery makes it easier to actually carry out the processes of stitching. It reduces the number of people required per garment. So I think it's a holistic program, and also trying to locate or cohabit factories where the jobs are required most. I think it's a holistic, multi-pronged attempt to try and break the small factory, urban sprawl sort of garmenting model. On the question on the Bangladesh model versus China, I think our relative competitive advantage today remains the weakest in garmenting. So I would feel it will be very difficult to leapfrog into a Bangladesh-like situation and say that put all our eggs into a garment-only basket. In fact, India has the very rare strength of having all raw materials available in plenty, and an incredibly developed textile backbone, which has been developed over 100 years. That doesn't mean we do things the same way. I think everything has to evolve. Not only garmenting has to go to the next model, but I think even the way we do textiles, we need to be continuously looking at making our industry more sustainable. Most of the MSMEs are still not in a position where they will be fully compliant on processing, for example. Tirupur, a reason this 40,000 crore success story exists with an MSME setup is it was one of the only ZLD clusters in the country. We need to replicate the Tirupur model now in 10 other places minimum to gain scale. And it comes to the question at the back that if we don't help our MSMEs get into the level of compliance for exports, it's going to be a very big challenge. Look at a cluster like Surat, amongst the most low-cost, high-scale clusters, but a cluster that has just not invested in quality, QC, and compliance, and they're not able to export even $1 billion, whilst Tirupur is exporting so many billions. Right? So I think if we don't upgrade our clusters and create this accreditation, it will be a serious issue. We won't be able to capitalize.
Okay. Can I put one question from my side to the panelists, something around this cluster question or scale question and trust factor? Government of India started off with PM Mitra Parks in 2021. There is no PM Mitra Park for Bihar, from where the labor goes, all the world. Is that a step, bold enough step in the right direction that we can create a scale and all these facility of residency and skilling centers where it can come in? Anyone from you Because you have gone to Bihar, Pallabji, or anyone.
I can start. Yes, Bihar definitely, I found that that ecosystem of at least the operator is there. The middle management can be easily quickly built up. The raw material and other infrastructure is still not there. And also the biggest challenge that we have in India, something about foreign investment also you're talking about, is that it's not easy to deal with the government bodies. It's slow, it moves very slowly. They sell quite well nowadays, but still when you come to implementation, I think I'm seeing a lot of gaps. So, yeah, so that has to come up. And I think if I look about this particular industry, the biggest giants have been from Taiwan and South Korea. So they have become the global players. Earlier it used to be the Israelis or the Jewish who had a huge control. Now the Jewish have become the big retailers now, and the supply chain has gone to the Koreans and Taiwanese and some Chinese. Of late, some Sri Lankans have been pouring into that sphere. Somehow, like India has not gone outside of India. Very few people have gone. Talking about the investment in Vietnam, the TPP really helped. The Trans-Pacific Pact, which was under discussion in the 2014, 15, 16, till Trump killed it by US moved out of it, but still a lot of investment had gone in by that time. And at the same time, I think some of these Koreans and people were trying to look into India, but they couldn't make a headway. I remember about 5 or 6 of them had come individually, not because of government was asking them, but they came and explored that market at that point. Some of them did a partnerships also. Elan did it. One more guy had done it. Now somebody has done it in Telangana, I think. Yeah. So that's. I think we have to attract that foreign investment. Of course, Bangladesh also didn't do it. They have also very few Koreans and Chinese have come in there, and they had to blend with Bangladeshis to set up something. So that foreign investment, I think, is a huge unlock that India can get into in this, because they know the know-how, the technology, the quickly trained people can bring in. We are also trying to do that same thing, but it's not easy. Yeah. But that's something is a huge unlock that I think is possible. And regarding the question on trust, I would like to say that some of the players, we just heard the story of Wellspun or the Arvind, Pearl, Shahis. So we have built up a lot of trust. That's why the customers are coming to us. But I think that has to be done at every level in the country now. I think with the success stories, a few others will come in. The platforms of this CETA and FTAs and all will set it up. People will look into India much more going forward. I think so, and I hope that's what happens. But yes, again, the other big topic that we had on the table is the raw material. 70% of the raw material is still missing in India at this point of time. 70% of the wardrobe of the Western countries. That's something we have to really fast forward.
We have to align with the demand patterns of the West if we want those markets, rather than just go with cotton. Anybody else?
Just to add one opinion, the cheaper labor cost alone cannot take you as a globally competitive. And in India, we should not consider that point and say we can be a competitive in the world. The right indicator may be productivity per person. So when we compare to China or Vietnam, the productivity is pretty high. They are paying 4 times, 5 times, still they are profitable, they are successful, they are continuously expanding. That is one point. And the second point is, there are very few countries has got a value chain end to end. We have a fiber to garments. But however, our value chain, the yarn, the fabric, processing, value addition, logistics, and testing infrastructure, and other service infrastructure, every element works in the different phase. So what happens is there is a real coordinated deliverables, so which is resulting a higher lead time, and of course the efficiency issues. We have this kind of issues. So on a long term, what we see is we need to continuously invest in the technology, industrial engineering, skill upgradation, and manufacturing new systems and the processes. So we need to continuously invest, and we need to look at long term. And as we talk about the trust, we cannot get this overnight. Us, the buyers, like now the basis, the sourcing, the basics itself is completely changing because they need the speed, flexibility, and the increased level of quality and the heightened, highest level of compliance. So we need to invest and constantly invest. Consistently, we need to work on. Consistently, we need to expand. And it is something like not thinking 1 year or 2 year. We should think beyond 10 years, 20 years. That is how we need to look into the investment, and then we can grow big. And yes, of course, the trust.
I think we need to wrap up. The next session is coming in, unless somebody wants to make a very quick, short comment.
I would say that the most important thing which we are also as well missing is our technology, especially in weaving. Today, India is a spinning country because of LMW when they started this. Today, we do not have even a single weaving machine manufacturer in India.
Oh.
And we are trying to reinvent a wheel. For example, we are saying that we'll develop our own rapier machine, which today in 10 years has reached a level of 450 RPM against a world standard of 950, 900 to 1000 RPM. So we don't have a machine. So we need that technology as well.
We need machines to make machines.
We need machines to make fabric.
Great. I think
we are importing almost 30,000 machines every year.
We have noted number of things from our very distinguished panelists, whether it is the trust factor, whether it is the technology, whether it is the scale, whether it is the environmental footprint. All these things are going to be very, very important. But the topmost, because earning trust is critical, and it takes time, through quality, through transparency. I started off with sui dhaga. I will end with another dhaga. What one of the Hindi poets, I'll translate that for you. Rahiman dhaga prem ka mat todo chatkaye. The thread of love, don't break it. टूटन पे फिर ना जुड़े, जुड़े तो गांठ पड़ जाए. That is the answer to your trust, that we have to build trust and it takes time. It's like that dhaga of prem ka. We are talking about a thread. That thread reflects the trust. Even in India, sisters tie up the thread and you will see number of people buying that. Okay, I need to stop that. She is hinting. So there is some last ceremony that needs to be done. Okay, back to you. Thanks a lot. A big applause for our panelists.
Thank you, Professor Gulati, and thank you to all our panelists for such a rich and wide, engaging session, and thank you to all the audience. In the end, I would request our director, Dr. Shekhar, to kindly present mementos to all our panelists. First, to Mr. William Bettendorf, Director, South Asia Cotton Council International. To Mr. Purna Srinivasan, Director and CEO of Lady Specialty Division at Shahi Exports. Mr. Pallav Banerjee, Managing Director, Pearl Global Industries Limited. Mr. Shiva Ganapati, Managing Director, Gokul Das Exports. Mr. K.M. Subramanian, President, Tirupur Exporters Association. Mr. Updeep Singh Chatrat, Chairman, National Council of Textile and Technical Textile at ASSOCHAM. To Mr. Kulin Lalbhai, Vice Chairman of Arvind Limited. To Professor Ashok Gulati, distinguished professor. Okay, may I request Professor Gulati to give a memento to Dr. Shekhar Iyer, please? Yeah. Yes, yes.
The talk is over.
Thank you to everyone. One last announcement. So the book is open access. You can scan from here. And if you will to purchase, the stall is just outside this room. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.